When we went over position absolute, you were told we can create layers. Like a painting or an image in Photoshop, we can in fact create layers. This is the Z index. If an element has a higher Z index than the one before it, it will be on top. So the higher the Z index, higher the status for the elements. Here's an example. We have red in the back, blue on top of that, yellow on top of that, and black on top of all of them. I did this by using just 4 div elements and using the position absolute with the left and top properties. You can also use the right and bottom properties if you like, and also by assigning it the Z index value. So here's the code. First we have our container div, and this will contain all the absolute elements. And what we did here is we used position relative instead of position absolute. And what relative does is it allows all the position absolute elements to stay inside this relative box. So we just gave it a height of 140 pixels. Our first one, red, position absolute, no Z index. By default, Z index will be 0. Then we have our blue box, again, position absolute, Z index is equal to 1. Well, it's not much higher than 0, but it is higher than 0, creating a layer. Then we have black, position absolute, Z index is equal to 2. And then we have our yellow one, Z index is equal to 3. So red is at the bottom, and then coming forward, you have blue, black, and yellow being on top. So let's go over relative now. We went over position relative in the positions class, and how it allows you to move an element relative to its natural location. What we didn't cover is how it affects the position absolute declaration. To create a box where absolute elements are allowed to go, we can create a parent element that is styled with position relative. So this blue box here is our position relative element. And then if we have an element inside of it that uses position absolute, the top left would be right up here. Top 0, right 0 would be up here. Bottom 0, right 0 would be down here. Bottom 0, left 0 would be over here. What I did was I just ended up using left. With this, you can actually use right. So naturally, your position absolute elements will try to go to the top left of your page or the top right of your page. What this does is it allows it to be contained, where top 0 and left 0 is up here, instead of, where it should be, is up here. Let's take a look at the code. So our box is position relative. We just gave it a border, a width of 500, a height of 150, and a natural font size of 11 pixels. Then we have our first one, position absolute, top 0, left 0, that's our top left one. And then we have our top right one, top is 0, left is 325 pixels. Again, with this, we can just write 0 and get another position absolute, top 136. Alternatively, we could do bottom 0, and instead of using left 305 pixels, we can also write right 0. And then one more absolute position, top 136, left 0. And again, the point I'm trying to stress here, all the absolute position elements in here are going to stay inside the relative box, and the relative is the container. You can think of it like this. You put food in a Tupperware container. The food can't go anywhere except inside the container, obviously if the lid is on. Now let's look at Z index. So I want to show you here what I mean. Our example from earlier, red was Z index is 0, that was our default. Blue is 1, black is 3, and yellow is 2. So the lower, the farther back, the higher, the closer it is. So red is in the back because we have yellow and blue on top, and we have black on top of blue. Now just looking at the Z index property, it accepts auto and value. Auto is default, and it'll be the same as its parent element. Value is a number. Negative numbers work too. You can use -1, minus 9,999. You could use 5,902. A lot of developers like to go in increments of 100. Don't usually use negative values unless you have to. For instance, you created a page that uses Z index 1, 2, 3 all the way to 10, but you want something that's going to show up underneath all of that now, including the default Z index. So that's the time you would set it to -1. It's not a big deal, it's just a preference that some people use. Now there is no limit to the value that you give it. You can actually just give it a value like this if you want. Most people just find it's easier to go in, tens, fives, hundreds, something that's easy for you to count for you to recognize the difference very quickly.